Hello everyone and welcome back to DC Central, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down and discussing the news that broke a couple of days ago that Carlos Valdes and Tom Cavanagh, who play Cisco, Ramone and all the different various versions of Wellses on The Flash respectively, are set to leave the show at the end of Season 7. So let's discuss. So like I said, I am a couple days late to this news and I do apologise for that. I've just been doing a couple of long work shifts the last couple of days, so I haven't really had a chance to cover it. But yeah, this news broke a couple days ago and it's been officially announced that both Cisco and Wells, well, both Carlos Valdes and Tom Cavanagh are both set to leave The Flash by the end of Season 7. This came as very shocking but also not very shocking news, if that makes sense. It was kind of very shocking to me to kind of just, you know, have it appear on my timeline and just to read it, and you know, as such a huge fan of The Flash and a huge fan of these characters and these actors, it's very shocking and, you know, sad to hear them that they're leaving. But then at the same time, it also isn't that shocking that out of all of the main cast members to be leaving the show at this point in time, it does kind of make the most sense that it would be Carlos and Tom. Like, those two do make sense to be leaving for their own different individual reasons. And you know, I've seen a lot of people bring up this point, and it's absolutely true that the fact that The Flash has gotten to its 7th season and it hasn't lost a single core cast member from its first season, like since the first pilot, that's pretty impressive. Like, the core cast, when you look at like Grant Gustin, Danielle Panabaker, Candice Patton, Jesse L. Martin, and Carlos Valdes, Tom Cavanagh included, none of those characters have actually left the show. Like, they are all characters who have been on the show since the pilot, and none of them have left. None of them have been killed off. None of them have left the show. The fact that it's managed to retain its core cast for this long, like for 7 seasons, that's pretty damn impressive. So the fact that, you know, it's only now that, you know, 2 of the cast members are leaving, that's not a bad run. So there was a quote released by Eric Wallace, who's of course the showrunner and producer on The Flash, and he said that he is keeping the door open for both actors to return as guest stars, as they are both leaving their positions as series regulars on the show. So that's important to remember. They aren't leaving the show entirely necessarily, we're just not going to be seeing them consistently anymore. Obviously with characters like Cisco and, you know, whichever version of Wells we had on any given season, they were consistent members of the cast. They were series regulars, so we would see them pretty much every episode. There may be the odd episode where, you know, they may not be in it, you know, for story reasons or whatever, but you know, for the most part they were in pretty much every episode of each season. But now they are moving into guest star positions if they are going to return to the show. So, you know, this isn't the last time, you know, Season 7 isn't going to be the last time that we see Cisco or any version of Wells. It's just the last time we're going to see them as consistent characters and proper members of Team Flash. But Eric Wallace did go on to say that Tom and Carlos have both been integral parts of our show for 7 seasons and will be greatly missed. Both are incredible talents who have created beloved characters that fans and audiences around the world have come to love, which is why we are happily keeping the door open for them for return appearances. So that's the quote from Eric. Like, that's what I said. He's basically saying that, yeah, it's really sad that these characters are leaving, but we're leaving the doors open for them to return. You know, if we ever would love to get these characters back, or they would ever want to return to the show, we're leaving those doors open for them. So I'll start off by talking about Carlos Valdes as Cisco Ramone, why he's leaving, and, you know, just breaking down that side of it. It's interesting with Cisco because obviously he is such a integral character on the show. Like, he's such a core component of the show's kind of functionality, if you will. Like, without him, I'm going to be interested to see how the show's kind of going to function. But, you know, Carlos Valdes has kind of been leaving the show for a couple of years now. Like, obviously, if you remember back to Season 5, there was a lot of speculation and a lot of discussion as to, and a lot of rumors that Carlos was looking to leave the show around that point, and it just didn't end up materializing. But what was interesting, what we learned sort of post Season 5, was that that was around the point when the cast members were re-upping their contracts, and Carlos Valdes essentially was taking the longest to renew. Like, he wasn't sure if he was going to do it. And that's why at the end of Season 5, Cisco is kind of left in this weird place where if we never saw him again, it would have made sense, but if he came back, it would have been fine. And obviously he did come back for Season 6 and is still around now in Season 7. But that was why his character was left in kind of that weird place at the end of Season 5, where he kind of gave up his powers and, you know, wanted to live his life with Camilla. That's kind of why that storyline came about, because they didn't think necessarily, they weren't guaranteed that Cisco or Carlos was going to come back for Season 6, so that's kind of why they decided to write it in that sense. So it has been very much apparent that Carlos has basically been on the way out the last couple of years. So, like I said, when I said at the beginning of the video that it was shocking and not shocking, that's what I mean by not shocking. Like, the fact that Carlos is now, like, officially leaving, it's not, like, a huge shock to me. Like, if they said it was, like, Candice Patton leaving, I'd be like, okay, that's pretty huge. But with Carlos, like I say, even though it's incredibly sad, and I'm incredibly sad to hear that this character's leaving and that he's leaving the show, it makes sense given what we've been hearing about Carlos and, you know, his intentions to kind of leave the show over the last couple of years. And Tom Cavanagh makes a lot of sense given what happened this season. If this news had broke before Season 7, I would have said that's pretty shocking as well, just because I always kind of thought that Tom Cavanagh would be on the show forever. But given what's happened with Season 7, it's pretty obvious that Tom was leaving this season, to be honest. They've kind of run out of options with Tom Cavanagh, because obviously with all the versions of Wells, from the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths, all the versions of Wells were basically, you know, collapsed into Nash, and then Nash dies in Season 7, Episode 3. So it's, and then we did have that version of Wells return as well, like the original Wells. So we've had that storyline kind of going on as well. But they've essentially ran out of options when it comes to the character of Wells, or the characters of Wells. So I'm not surprised that Tom's leaving at this point. Now, both of these characters are set to still be in this season. Like, Tom Cavanagh is going to be in a couple of more episodes this season, I believe. And Cisco, I think, is going to be around probably till the finale. Like, I believe they actually stated that Carlos's final episode will be the Season 7 finale, which is episode 18. So we've got Carlos for the whole season, and then Tom Cavanagh will probably leave midway through the season, like probably within the next 5 episodes, 6 episodes, something like that, as they kind of wrap up that whole arc. So, you know, it's interesting that both of these characters are leaving, but like I said, it's not majorly surprising. When you break it down like that just now, it does kind of make a lot of sense. And as Eric Wallace mentioned, you know, both of these characters, they have left the door open for both of these characters to return in the future. So, you know, if they want to come back in guest star spots, then that will absolutely happen. Like, I'm sure we will see Cisco again in the, you know, coming seasons. You know, we're not quite sure how long The Flash is going to go for. I'm pretty sure Grant Gustin is signed up to Season 9 currently, or it might be Season 8, I'm not too sure. But I'm sure The Flash is going to go for, like, at least another couple of seasons. Like, I've always said, I think The Flash will probably get to about Season 10. I mean, it could get less, it could get more, you know, we have to just wait and see. But either way, no matter how much longer The Flash goes on, we will see Cisco again, especially when it comes to, like, you know, the final season, that final episode, you know, like we saw with Arrow. You know, in the final season of Arrow, they brought back so many cast members from all different time periods on the show. And given the fact that Cisco is, you know, essentially one of the main characters on the show, you know, you pretty much got Barry, Iris, Caitlin, and Cisco. They're like your main characters. He's definitely going to come back at some point, so I wouldn't be shocked at that. And then with Tom Cavanagh, I'm pretty sure those guest spot positions are pretty much going to be left for him to come back as Reverse Flash. Obviously, he doesn't just play all the versions of Wells, he does play the Reverse Flash for the majority of the show. Now, obviously, there are 2 actors who play the Reverse Flash, as well. There's also Matt Letcher who plays him, but they always struggle to get Matt Letcher, so they always get Tom Cavanagh to play him. So I'm pretty sure those guest spot positions they're talking about are probably Tom Cavanagh coming back as Eobard Thawne. That's what I expect, at least. And, you know, the Reverse Flash hasn't played a major role in The Flash in a little while. Obviously, he did have a role in Season 5, but we haven't seen him really since then. So, you know, I'm pretty sure he's going to come back at some point, probably. I don't think he's going to be in this season, but probably in the next season, maybe the season after. And when it comes to that, we'll have to see whether they bring back Tom Cavanagh or whether they can actually get Matt Letcher. You know, I've always said that the final season of The Flash, the main villain should be the Reverse Flash. Obviously, he is the main villain of Season 1, but he should be the final villain as well. It'd be cool if they could get Matt Letcher to come back and play him for the final season, given the fact that that is the actual Reverse Flash, like that's the actual Eobard Thawne. But either way, I think it's pretty strong chance that we'll probably see Tom Cavanagh again, when we do see him again, as the Reverse Flash. So overall, my thoughts on this are that I'm very sad to see that both of these actors are leaving the show, because Cisco is arguably my favourite character on the show, so to hear him that he's leaving, it's just incredibly sad. And like I said, he's such a core part of the show that I'm going to be very interested to see, you know, what kind of what the show's going to feel like without him, because he's such a core part of it. I mean, the way season 7 and the back half of season 6 were kind of dealing with it was, obviously we now have Chester as a series regular, and he's basically a very similar character to Cisco. And then in the replacement of Tom Cavanagh, we do have Allegra, who's also now a series regular, and she is obviously the alternate Nash's daughter, so she can kind of fill that role, I guess. So, you know, there are places on the team that can be filled, and like I say, with a character like Chester, he's very much a Cisco replacement. And I don't mean that as a way to badmouth the character. I'm really enjoying Chester on the show, but, you know, that's kind of his character role at this point, is to kind of be the new Cisco. So, you know, it's going to be sad to see them go, and I'm very interested to see how the show's going to feel without them, but I'm sure The Flash will be able to cope, and I'm sure we're going to still get some smashing, incredible episodes and some great seasons, even if these characters having to, you know, drop off at this point. But what do you guys think about this news? Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, if you want to see more DC content like this and Flash videos, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from me, and hope to see you guys again next time.